Welcome to Childcare Conversations, the podcast where early childhood leaders like you get real-world strategies, honest talk, and a whole lot of support. Whether you're running one center or many, we're here to help you lead with confidence and clarity. This episode is brought to you by this quarter's sponsor, Playground, the all-in-one childcare management software. We're all about managing monkeys and saving you time at your center. With this platform, you can. We're proud to partner with a team that's as committed to your success as we are. Learn more at tryplayground.com. Now, let's get into today's conversation, one we think you're really going to love.
Welcome back, today's co-host. I'm just making her an unofficial co-host. So Alicia's joining us today because we are about to get into fall conference season. And you guys have heard Carrie and I talk before about the importance of good keynotes, the importance of planning when you go to a conference to make sure you know that you are getting the training that you need, but also that you're encouraging your staff to get the training they need, not just the workshops they want to go to.
Or and the free swag.
Oh, let's talk about those vendors and that free swag. Let me tell you, folks, just because it's a fall conference does not mean that you need to go trick-or-treating. Vendor halls really are not designed to be the adult version of trunk or treat. I'm just saying. I mean, now I do like some good candy, and I purposely never keep it at my booth because I'd eat it all, but I know what booths have it. And so today, Alicia and I are going to actually talk about vendors. And so, Alicia, talk to me a little bit about your experience, how many conferences you've done in early childcare, and I don't know, maybe why we're having this conversation.
Of course. Well, as a lot of you have maybe heard one of my previous podcasts, I've been with 3 different companies in the early childhood space, in the outdoor education space, which means I go to a lot of conferences across the board. I've been to your major ones like NACE, Child Care Success Summit, Association for Early Learning Leaders. I've been to your small state conferences. I've been to different chapter conferences, and every single one looks a little different, and your outcomes should always be somewhat the same, right? Like, you're going to get professional development, you're going to network, you're going to meet people. But there's this other piece that helps make that conference run, and that's the vendor or expo hall. And we don't just show up because we don't want to be in the office for a week. We show up because we want to meet you, we want to talk to you, and we want to tell you what we have. But you also hear that story from every single booth in there. So how do you decide who you want to work with, who you want to talk to? Well, that's what Kate and I are going to dive into, and I'm excited because it is all about finding the people that work for you and that you want to work with.
Love that. And so part of the reason why I have Alicia doing the conversation is that you've probably noticed that childcare conversations, we have partners. We have something that we've called the neighborhood. And I kind of like to think of it as maybe the genius bar for early childhood educators, right? We've got folks who we have trusted that were vendors who we wished we had when we owned and ran centers. And because a lot of times we went with big names because it was a name that we knew, not necessarily because it was the best price, not necessarily because it was a local vendor. If you've ever seen any of my little soapbox episodes about buying from people in your state or local vendors or people you're truly impacting, like there are vendors that come to the vendor halls that are multi-million-dollar businesses. They are not small businesses. And if you aren't sure, like a small business is like under 400 staff, right? So when I say that they aren't that means that they are, businesses with over 400 staff, millions and millions a year in sales. And you have no idea who actually, they could be a publicly traded company. A lot of the vendors that we meet in your local association probably is local or regional. And so I think it's really important to give them a shot, and don't forget to ask. Here's my secret. Alicia, close your ears. Always ask for a discount, because if you don't ask, you're never going to get it. Okay, go ahead. So
You're totally right. But to what Kate's saying is you go to all these conferences and you're in a local, if you go to like your AEYC state conference, ideally those people in the expo hall are your state reps. Those are the people that are willing to come to your center, come to your building, walk you through, get on a phone, have a Zoom call, and truly show you what they have to offer. But that also doesn't mean that they're the right partner for you just because they're there. And so when you start looking for partners, when you start talking to people, first and foremost, when you come to a conference, part of conference preparedness is have questions that you need to answer. Things that you aren't going right in your center, have your notepad and your pen, things that you don't like, complications, things you're unhappy about. A lot of times conferences end up being this like kind of vent session that we get to do with each other about like what's working and not working. But on top of that, you get to network with people who have been in your shoes, have done your thing, and can help aid you. And that's what the vendors are there to do as well. You might go to a conference and see 4 CRM companies. That's pretty typical, I would say, of a lot of our early childhood conferences. You also probably see anywhere from 3 to 5 equipment suppliers. You probably see an accountant. You probably see the small businesses, the ones that only have, 2 to 5 employees that are making resources for you, or the publishers that have the books and the training. You have all those different people, but picking which one you want to work with can be difficult. So you need to go around, you need to talk to people. You need to say hi. You need to talk about what you're doing. You need to be willing and open to share who you're using and why. And if the answer is, I don't know, it's just who we inherited, that's great. But now it's time to talk to the next person to find out why you would maybe want to work with them. Or when I'm at a conference, I am always so excited when someone says, yeah, I buy from X, Y, and Z, who might be my biggest competitor, but I can ask why. Why do you do that? And they go, that's who we've always bought from. Okay, so what do you like or what don't you like? I just came off a conference unrelated to early child care, but our biggest competitor was there. And everyone tried to shy away that they didn't want to let me know that they were buying from them. And then I was simply like, well, do you like working with them? And they said, well, yeah, we like it. That's what we know. But like, what do you do? And it allowed me to tell them what we do differently. So give vendors that opportunity to tell them what you do differently, but start building those relationships and ask your pain point questions. If you're working with someone and you don't like something that they do, express that and see if this other vendor might be able to solve that problem for you.
Okay, so that's like the perfect segue. Thank you so much. I know you didn't tee that up for me on purpose, but I'm going to use it. So when you go to the conferences, in addition to having your questions and your pens, make sure you've got business cards, but do your homework before you leave and make sure you know what products you are buying. Have a conversation with other folks in leadership about what are things we might be replacing in the next year. Because what a great way to be the steward of the budget of your program than actually shopping and actually. So a lot of large companies do things like request for proposals. So if you're with, a major brand and you got 100 locations, you're doing an RFP for crayons, right? You're going to try to find the best product you can buy. But if you're a single location, or maybe you even have 3 to 7 locations, 3 to 7, you've got more than one. You probably aren't doing an RFP. You aren't putting it out for bid. But I'm going to challenge you to make sure you know where are you spending your money. You have, more than a profit and loss statement. Actually look at who gets your money. So we know the number one expense is payroll. The second one is probably all things related to your building. But let's talk about even those things related to your building. Sometimes, especially if you're in a local community, you might find other vendors that you could use that do what you need done in your community. So don't rule out pest control. Don't rule out banking. I've seen banking. I've seen pest control. Yes, a lot of times we think of equipment vendors, bus vendors, accounting services, right? But again, just because you have a local accountant doesn't make it the best option for you. It may just be the convenient option. If you're not sure, check with those at that conference and say, well, this is what I've been doing and this is how much I paid in taxes, or this is what I did. Have a conversation with other people because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Right? So,
Mhm.
Alicia, so in addition to people giving you an opportunity,
Mhm.
other than people coming by and grabbing your swag and your chocolate, what might be a great first thing for them to say other than maybe hello and smile?
I mean, those are always great. It's always good to know, you know, where you're from, what your ages you're servicing, and again, pain points that you have. You know, when you're looking, if you're in a showroom, I've worked for multiple equipment companies. That's pretty much what we sell. Outside, indoor, tables, chairs, all the things, carpets. But, you know, if you're like, I got rid of all the carpets in my classroom because I don't like them. They are stinky. They never get washed. COVID, I think everyone threw them out. And now we're getting them all back in because they bring color and they liven a space. But is a carpet a carpet? Like, you want to start talking and asking, like, what do you have that's new? What do you have that's unique? I think that's the big thing too with vendors. Like,
Ooh, I
what's
love that
new?
question. What is
What's
new and what is unique?
Yeah, what's coming to the industry that can be beneficial? And I want to just circle back quick, Kate, when you were talking about like looking at who you do business with, you should also look at how often you do business with them.
Mm.
And that could be on your equipment side of things or food supply or, you know,
Or
any of
even
your
and the
disposable items
volume.
and the volume.
Yeah.
Because let's say you buy trikes, all right? Almost every center has a trike or something outside, some kind of gross motor, playground ball, hula hoop. If you're buying those items every 6 months to a year, it might be time to reevaluate who you're buying them from. How many times does Amazon show up as someone you're spending money with? I know from experience, Amazon is like a once a month, once a week, sometimes everyday purchase over here for various things because it's convenient. Convenience doesn't always mean quality though either. And that's even too when it comes to your CRMs, it comes to your banking, it comes to your pest control, who's driving your bus, where are you getting your food? But paying attention to how often those transactions and how much you're spending with certain companies, because that could also add more questions for do you need to switch? Do you need to look at something else?
I love that that decision piece, right? So it's not just who's the cheapest, it's how often. So looking at some of that stuff across at least a year, but maybe even 2 or 3 years. And so if you don't have an in-house inventory of all of the equipment you have per room, when was it purchased, or did you get it through a workforce grant? Like how did that product come to be? Um, it's definitely worth taking a look at. And do you have some hiding somewhere? There's always that closet that somewhere has caught the it's been donated, or I mean, I've met one in a really, really long time. And so who actually has in one of their buildings, they have a third floor. It might remind you of an attic, but it's got finished floors and they've got rows and rows of shelving. The shelving has all of the products labeled by age group and type. So you can go in and find infant math in their book, in their shelves, right? So they don't keep everything out on the shelf all the time. They do a really good job rotating. It's all curriculum aligned, but they've spent a long time curating that content. And so,
Mhm.
but you know what they don't have? They don't have it written. They don't have it digital. It's you got to go up and, it's still pretty simple, right? You know where all the infant stuff is, like, it's all
Mhm.
divided, but you still have to have it. So,
Mhm.
if you don't already have something like that, we've now given you some homework. Ooh, we were not very nice to folks today. So we've told you you've got to come to the conferences with a list of questions. You've already heard me tell you need to know what trainings you're actually going to. But now we're telling you to go look at your budget and figure out where you're spending your money. What are you spending your money on? And then I gave you a fourth one of you need to know your supply inventory and when you bought it. Because again, if you've got a bye-bye buggy and that bye-bye buggy is 10 years old, then it might be time to make sure that you have at least planned to budget for a bye-bye buggy.
Mhm.
And if for some reason it's actually still held up because it comes inside all the time and because you have a place to park it inside. But if you're like most of us, that didn't happen and it got, it looks like it's been bye, bye, bye. right? It's like, it's been Deadpool. And so you need to come up with kind of a plan to replace. And I think that is one of those things that often gets people. They don't really think about how often they're replacing the inventory, but they're forgetting just general maintenance on their equipment, right? So, like, we'll clean a room, we will vacuum a rug, but we will forget to clean well and dry equipment, right? Or if we've got those trikes and they've been raining, did we dry them? Or are we just hoping that they don't rust? Are we catching the scrapes and the cracks and painting and repairing? Are we doing the things to make that equipment last longer? And one of the things that I thought was interesting in a side conversation you and I had one time was that a lot of times folks will get rid of a piece of equipment because they didn't realize they could get replacement parts from a vendor.
Correct. Yep.
Because they didn't buy the equipment from a vendor. They got it as a grant from, like a workforce board or a CCNR. And if that's the case, make sure you know who manufactured whatever you have, so that if you can't find that bolt or that nut or that screw or whatever it is, don't toss that piece of equipment because you can't find one. Either reach out to the manufacturer, or God forbid, go to Lowe's, Home Depot, or even better, go to your Ace local hardware store, because the local hardware store is probably going to have what you need. But if not, call the manufacturer.
Yep. Yeah. And that's another thing too, what else you could bring to conferences is pictures of the things you like or don't like. Because I guarantee if you talk to an equipment supplier, if you talk to someone and you have a picture, someone in that room is going to be able to pinpoint where that came from, who sold it, when they last saw it. You're going to conferences and there's a wealth of knowledge from the attendees to the speakers to the people in the exhibit hall to those vendors that are there to help you. And maybe they would tell you, yep, that is so old, you're not going to find a replacement piece. But here's that piece of equipment that is newer, better, and X, Y, and Z that's going to fix your problem. Here's something else. Or two, if you can't find the manufacturer, you can ask, I know I put my earmuffs on, but I still heard. You can ask vendors for discounts, or can they offer you a discount to replace the broken thing? Vendors want to work with you. They want to earn your trust and they want to build relationships. That's why we're there. We're there to build relationships with you. And so lean on us, lean on those relationships to get your building, your classroom, your program where you want it to be. And
but
again, it doesn't happen overnight.
You guys are just like salespeople. You're like vultures. You're like, like I just feel like I come back from a conference and I got 3 million emails from all of you. What do I do with all of this? Like, I don't have time to build a relationship with all y'all.
And you can't, and you shouldn't, right? You have to find the people, first question to ask, do you travel or will you come on my site? If you're a director and you're overwhelmed in all the things you have to do, is there a partner who is willing to sit down with you, make a plan, walk your site? That might be who you need. If you need a little bit more hand-holding, you might have to spend a little bit more to get that coverage. If you are like one of the chains, one of the big locations like Kate mentioned where you have to go to RFP, you might not have a choice. So you can block out all the other noise and you've got your list of you have to work with. But start talking to the people on that list that you have to work with so that they know your name and they know who you are and you know them. So when you're calling, you're not going into a general queue at this giant company. You're going to your exact rep, the person who you spent time talking to, and going from there. I mean, again, yes, you get all the handouts and all the things. And how do you decide? It doesn't happen overnight. It happens going to a conference here, going to a conference there, having your list of questions. And also join Facebook groups. Join, Childcare Conversations has an email, weekly newsletter. Join the newsletter so you can get things. Join and listen to podcasts. You can hear from other people and start whittling down your list that way. It doesn't happen in one conference. It happens over time and pulling in from different resources.
Absolutely. And if you do have vendors you like, ask those vendors for referrals of the other products and services you need. Believe it or not, the vendors all talk to each other, because while you guys are in session, guess what we're doing? We're racing trikes around the vendor hall and we're getting to know each other. And so we all know each other.
Where's the music?
We all know each other, and we know each other, and there are vendors we trust that we think are people you need to know. There are also vendors who maybe we don't trust the same, not because they were necessarily bad, or maybe they were. Maybe we watched them after hours and we're like, I'm not going there. But it could just be personality wise, right? So you've got to find those people you connect with. And so if you found a vendor you really, really liked, and you have a supplier and you're like, wow, they really gave me personalized service. Like they went through and they helped me prioritize that I should start with a rug, and that then I should do this. And now we're buying a playground, and we're buying it for them because we got to know them over time. And ask that vendor, who do you think I should use for, or do you know anybody? My state just lost half my insurance companies, right? Ask them, because chances are they know somebody. Same with all those CRMs that Alisha was talking about, right? Like, is there a CRM that somebody likes, right? And as you're building your own little vendor network, make sure you're building your other tribe as well. So a lot of times we come to childcare conferences with people we work with. Make sure you've brought business cards and that you are getting the contact information for other people with the same type of job title that you have in other places around the country, around your state, because there are going to be days where you're going to call and you're going to want to talk to Carly and go, Carly, I heard you on a podcast, and I know that you've recently changed your CRM software. Tell me why. Who did you go with? What do I need to know? Because now you have a peer in the industry who can also validate for you whether or not the vendors you're looking at are worth looking at, because they might have a secret story to tell you. But always, anytime somebody has a secret story, ask when did that happen? Right? Because that's always a big doozy, right? Like if it was 2 weeks ago, that's one thing. If it was 4 years ago, yeah, take it with a grain of salt, because hopefully maybe the organization and the company learned from it, right? But ask how it was resolved, because most of the time when we have issues, the vendor's going to try really, really hard to resolve it. And if they can't, because they're like, oh, I don't have the ability to do that, and that person can't make a decision, that's a big clue that maybe you're like, okay, so you might be a great regional salesperson, but if you can't make the decision to help fix something for me, that may not work for me. I may have to go with a smaller something. Well, I just went on. Boy, that was a little soapboxy, wasn't it? Okay,
it was, but it's fine. But it's true.
You didn't get to co-host much. I just like la 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 la.
Things happen. People transition. People move companies. People work in this industry because they like this industry. Which means that if you like working with a specific person, it's okay to follow them to wherever they end up going. But again, you have to believe in the services and get the quality out of the services that you're paying for. And if you don't, speaking from a vendor, I don't take hardship if someone says, hey, what you do now and where you work doesn't service me anymore. Do you know someone else that I can go to and I can work with? I think that's really big to remember too, is you don't have to just follow someone or follow your predecessor because that's what's in place. You have to do what is right for you and for your center and for your children and what makes the most financial sense, quality wise, and it's okay to switch around.
Absolutely. Find exactly what you need. And hopefully we have given you some food for thought. So as you start planning out your October, November, and December conferences, because we know how many there are happening across the country, like it's insane. So we know that from August to December, well, really August to January, you start running into a whole bunch, and then they come back again in March and April, and it's always, right? So, but with that, hopefully you will come back in a few days, listen to our next episode. And if you don't already follow the newsletter, what should they do, Alisha?
They need to follow the newsletter. They need to get on it. There's lots of beneficial tidbits all the time.
Sounds great. Childcareconversations.com, and we will see you in a few days.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.